we're back with Tom and Edwin's Excellent Adventure. Next episode, Tom, what's in a name?
Thank you, Shakespeare. What's in a name? Names are important, but don't devote your life to overthinking them, because I believe they're more art than science. When I started out with the Community Worship Hour, I thought it was a perfect name, and I think you know why.
Well, positive words in it that are attractive. Community. Worship also tells you a little bit about what you're going to do and what to expect. An hour, how long to expect it for.
Exactly. Thought it was a perfect name. Short and sweet, Community Worship Hour, easy to do online, etc., etc. It turned out, after 3 years, some people stepped forward and they said, Tom, we need to change the name. And I didn't understand why. And they said, well, in our community, people don't understand what a community worship hour was. And that's because we're a pretty conservative community socially, and no worshiping community existed outside the realm of a church. And they were exactly right. Excuse me. So we had to change our name. We ultimately changed it to the Community Church, which for me was a problem because I didn't think we deserved to be called a church. We were a mission, and we weren't doing any outreach for others, so we really didn't qualify as a church. But one of those examples where I sort of left my theology behind, and I think in that case it was the right decision. We became the Community Church, and I think that helped with our image and identity in the community.
And you were open to the feedback, open to the community.
Absolutely got to be open to the feedback, and that's one of the mistakes I made, is it took too long for me to listen excuse me, and be able to hear what people were saying. I think names can be really helpful if you've got the right name, but you have to decide what you want your name to do. So, for example, what do you think is the most popular church name in the United States?
I would guess it's Saint something, or Christ, Christ.
There's a lot of saints and a lot of Christ churches. The most popular name of a church in the United States is First Baptist.
Okay.
So it does two things. One is it tells you, that it was a First Baptist church in the community. I don't know if that means anything or if that really matters. Excuse me. The second thing it tells you it's Baptist, says something about its theology. So it kind of works. It's not sexy. It's not engaging. But it works.
But it's a brand that has worked for a long time. So
exactly. So that's how a name can work. Now, there's a trend in names of churches in the United States to be rather, I don't want to say, bland's probably not the right word.
Non-religious.
But non-religious. So, for example, one of the more famous churches in the United States and in the world now is Willow Creek Church, started by Bill Hybels, who's an incredible intuitive marketer. He started Willow Creek Church, and it's not in a town called Willow Creek. In fact, it's in Barrington, in the suburbs of Chicago. Willow Creek doesn't really describe much of anything, but I think what their thinking was, and I'm making a guess at this, is they didn't want to have the kind of name that turned people away.
Like religious baggage.
Exactly. Same reason they don't have, crosses, and they don't sing old-fashioned religious music, and they don't have funky religious symbols around that weird some people out. It's a fairly generic space, and so they didn't want to have a name that talked about the Redeemer or the Savior or the cross. Okay, and so there's a trend towards more generic kinds of names. I guess in your situation, or anybody who's starting a new worshiping community, I think you have an awesome opportunity. And the opportunity is to do something that is memorable and even catchy without being tacky. Okay, you have an opportunity to target a population and use language that fits with that population that you're going after. So names are important. The last thing, excuse me, that I would say is when you think about your name, have your name as best you can be something that works with an online presence. So, for example, if you are Edwin's First Church of the New Protestant Wilmington Revival, that's not going to make for very good or understandable URL. Okay, but if you have something that's shorter and sweeter that works online, that's going to be beneficial to you. So names, it's hard to know if something's going to be great until it's worked for a while and it catches on. One last story. When we started what we call our ministry in Africa, we wanted the website Uganda Kids, and we're going to call it Uganda Kids. Someone owned the website. We offered to buy it from them because they weren't using it. They just owned it. They refused to even talk to us, and so all we did is flip it around and go from being Uganda Kids to being Kids Uganda. Right at the very first, it sounded awkward and kind of silly. I can tell you that for the last 8 years, though, nobody has thought twice about it, and Kids Uganda has just become a name that people use, and it rolls off folks' tongues, and it works perfectly, and it's short and sweet. KidsUganda.com. We have that website, and so it's choosing a name is as much art as it is science, and just try not to make any big mistakes.
Yeah. So something that can reflect a little bit about what you're trying to achieve, the population you're trying to reach, and it's important but not crucial, and sort of allow it to maybe even come from the community and let the community contribute to it, and let it be adaptable to our reality, right? The reality of our communities and technology. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Well, and even after you've established a population, after a while, it might be fun to have a contest and say, we've been thinking about our name and the way that we've evolved after a couple of years. Is the name that we have right now the one that describes us best, or what name do you think? And it would be fun to hear about what ideas people have, and how they perceive you in the community. So names lots of times evolve. We used to be the Community Church of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. We almost always only call ourselves the Community Church now. And a friend of mine has a business called New Vision Athletics that over years just simply became NVA. And so you don't know what a community is going to do with a name, so don't overthink it, but do put some time into it and think about it relative to the population that you're targeting.
Tom, when I think of a name, I also think about a logo, something that reinforces the name and goes hand in glove with it. So I think that's what we're going to talk about the next episode. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
All right. Catch us next episode.